The damage to pylons, which is cutting supplies to thousands, is worse than previously thought. Households across the Kintyre and Arran Peninsula and the southwest face a fifth day without power.
Everybody's been great though, especially with the baby. You know, everybody's been knocking and seeing if we need anything, and Mountain Rescue have been dropping things off as well, which has been brilliant.
And I've been hearing how people here on Arran have been coping as they've endured yet another day without electricity.
I've been spending the day with engineers as they battle through Kintyre to get to the heart of the problem.
And we'll be speaking live to the energy company as it tries to reconnect supplies. In other news, the centre of attention. Derek McInnes checks in as the new boss at Pataudry, saying it won't be a quick fix.
Yeah, I go along to the basketball as much as I can.
A personal tour of the city where he spends part of the year as Andy Murray gets ready to kick off his Miami Masters Challenge. Thousands of homes on Arran and the Kintyre Peninsula are facing a fifth day without power after what an energy company described as unprecedented damage caused by the severe weather. SSE says the damage to 8 pylons by ice and snowstorms is significantly worse than originally thought. Engineers are now at a site near Carradale on Kintyre trying to repair the damage. The failure there meant that electricity couldn't be supplied to the 2 subsea cables that feed Arran. However, damage to around 100 electricity poles on the island has compounded the problems. Meanwhile, in Dumfries and Galloway, there are still about 250 homes without power after Friday's blizzards. What has emerged over the last few days, there is a huge amount of community spirit in the areas worst affected. On Arran, hotels have opened their doors to all comers, coastguards have delivered food, and a fire station is offering hot showers. Aileen Clark sent this from the island.
It may have stopped snowing now, but here's what it's left behind. On the west coast of Arran at Slidgery, they've started clearing the farm tracks, but in the meantime, there's mercy missions to those cut off from electricity and roads.
It's a bit far away from the coast, but we've got a 95-year-old woman in a farmhouse just up the track that's needing food and hot water bottles and other supplies in. So we're going to put it in our vehicle and take it up to her and make sure that she's got everything she needs to see her through until the road's cleared.
This man was embarking on his own long walk in this afternoon, laden with food, extra clothing and camping stove.
To get some food up to Sheena, I'm going across the field half a mile to avoid the impact snow on the road and hopefully get there.
As he headed for home, further round the coast at Blackwater Foot, it was time for the hot water bottle delivery to residents in sheltered housing. It's been a long, cold 4 days.
We've had absolutely splendid attention. As you've already seen, we've got hot water bottles. It's a kind of relay of replacements for them, and food. The Kinloch Hotel have been really wonderful. Porridge in the morning, and we've had soup, and we had fish and chips last night, and they've been wonderful.
At the Kinloch Hotel nearby, locals were gathering for food, heat and information. After being completely cut off at the weekend, they're grateful at least the roads are partially open again, though power to their homes is yet to arrive.
We've got family on the island as well, so we've been able to get through and make sure that they're all right and that sort of thing. So it's a big relief that the roads are open. Everybody's been great, especially with the baby. You know, everybody's been knocking and seeing if we need anything, and Mountain Rescue have been dropping things off as well, which has been brilliant. So.
Much relief from the teenagers whose geology field trip to Loch Ranza turned into more of a survival course. They were due to leave the island on Friday. They finally got out today.
It's been cold, but well, we've not had electricity, but we've had food, which is good.
Yesterday we were out helping the lifeboat, it felt good to do that. Well, it came in about 4 times, and we just unpacked all the food for the village and sent it to the village hall.
In this pub in Brodick, they were still drinking by candlelight last night. They'll have light tonight thanks to one of the numerous generators being hooked up around the island, but there will still be many residents who'll be huddled by their fires.
Well, let's go to Aileen now. Aileen, a real sense of community spirit there.
There's been tremendous community spirit shown on Arran over the last few days. And, you know, it's been particularly important when it's become to the elderly The Social Services Department was very worried at the weekend about elderly, vulnerable people. They urged folk to check in on their neighbours, and why have they done that? They've done that in spades. I've even heard today of somebody who strapped on a camping stove and headed off through the snow to somebody they knew was on their own, was vulnerable, to cook them up something so they would make sure that they had a hot meal. And that's been the kind of spirit that's been going on. You've heard there in the piece about some of the Coast Guards getting involved, the fire stations are getting involved. But the local people themselves here have done an awful lot over the last few days to make sure, as far as they can, that people they know are going to be all right and are going to get through this. Because make no mistake about it, it's been a very serious situation. It's very, very cold people here, and people in their houses have been getting very cold indeed over the last few days.
Thank you very much, Aileen. Well, as Aileen said in her report, it's hoped mobile generators will provide a temporary solution within the next 24 hours. We'll be talking to Scottish and Southern Energy in a moment. But as I said earlier, the source of Arran's problem was on Kintyre. Laura Bicker is there. And Laura, you've been out with the engineers.
Yes, they're still battling in the field behind me, trying to assess the real damage done to these pylons. It's worth mentioning that the problems you've seen there with Aileen on Arran, they are really compounded here in Kintyre as well. The main A83 was closed for most of the weekend. It's still only passable with care, and with a police convoy. They had to take generators by ferry down to Campbelltown, and people have told me there that they've spent a very difficult weekend, as have the engineers, to battle just to get here. To give you an idea of how unprecedented this storm has been, the electricity company last had a pylon brought down by the weather in 1987. They've never had two brought down as they did this weekend. This is the worst snow in Kintyre in over 50 years, and the first time many have had to dig their way out of their homes.
I think 1963 was the last time we had a big snow, and I'm told that it was men with shovels that opened the road. And these days, no machinery.
Engineer Andy Malkin stops to lend a hand, just part of his day. But this is the main priority, a crumpled mass of metal which used to help supply power to thousands of homes. Even making it here has been a real achievement from the engineers from Scottish and Southern Energy. It's taken 6 helicopters to assess the damage. Over 600 engineers are between here and the Isle of Arran, trying to distribute 45 mini generators to make sure that the power continues to stay on. It's taken 2 days for engineers to get here. Now that they have, they found the damage to be significantly worse than they thought.
We see lots of this in our line of business, but this is absolutely extensive, and the tower damage is absolutely significant for us. So our focus is to really get onto the ground now, and we've got access today, so the next few days we'll really focus and make sure we get the guys focused on delivery and get this supply back on.
This problem won't be easily fixed. Even a temporary solution could take until the end of the week. To fix it permanently may take several months. Laura Bicker, reporting Scotland in Kintyre.
Well, now for the latest on what is happening to reconnect homes, we're joined by Ross Easton of SSE, who is on Arran. So what is the latest, Ross, in terms of reconnection, first of all?
At the moment we have around 5,000 customers that are without power. Certainly here in Arran, about 1,500 customers. We have been making good progress throughout the day. 400 engineers in total in Scotland working, 150 here on Arran, a real pulling together of all the different services to get electricity supplies restored as quickly as possible.
So when is as quickly as possible?
For us, well, certainly our engineers have been out since this started over the weekend. We're making good progress. We're hoping that we will get a huge number of customers back on tonight. There will still, unfortunately, be some 100 customers off, a couple of 100 customers that are going to be off overnight, mainly in rural areas like where I am just now. Unfortunately, access has proved quite difficult in some of these places. Just getting here for this piece for you, we've passed snowdrifts that have been very high, 6 to 12 feet in places, so access has been really difficult for us.
And what about the reconnections on Kintyre?
They're progressing well as well. Very similar problems as to Arran in terms of access, but the engineers working there at the moment, like they are here, a huge number of engineers, 400 engineers that are out at the moment, all working round the clock to restore electricity supplies. So we are making progress. I know that that's hopefully some comfort to those customers that are still without power, the homes that are currently without power. We are doing our very best and trying to get out into those rural places to get electricity supplies restored as quickly as we can.
We heard that the last time that you had a pylon down was 1987. Why has it been so bad?
It's been horrendous here. I mean, we've not seen anything like this in a number of years now. I've been talking to some of our engineers who've been on the job for 30, 40 years, and they have not seen anything like this. The scale of it is, watching from home, you might find it difficult to believe, but seeing some of those pictures out there, it is really horrific, some of the snow that has been brought on here. Arran surrounded by seawater, you just don't get snow like this. We've had sheer metal being sheared off because of the weight of ice on lines, and that's what's happening. You've got electricity cables where you've had the ice compacting around them and literally pulling the electricity poles down because of the weight of it. It is horrendous.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Ross Easton there from SSE. Well, hundreds of homes in Dumfries and Galloway were also without power again today after the blizzards of Friday. Scottish Power have been working there to restore supplies. The weather has also caused problems for the large rural community. Farmers say it couldn't have come at a worse time as lambing and calving is underway. Cameron Buttle reports.
3 days the snow fell and the gales blew across Dumfries and Galloway. Huge drifts cut off remote farms battling against one of the worst winters on record. Animals became stranded. It's feared many have died under banks of snow. Until that snow melts, it's not known how many. Severe freeze couldn't have arrived at a worse time, lambing season. Luckily, Ewan Hislop managed to get all his sheep inside his farm near Castle Douglas. Many of his neighbours haven't been so lucky.
Sheep, when they're outside, would tend to look for shelter. They're really quite clever that way. Sometimes they'll find good shelter where they're safe. Sometimes they'll end up in a lower spot or behind a dike, behind a knoll that's going to fill over with the drift. And if you can imagine the really bad weather at that point, once they start to get covered, they're not going to move far, and inevitably they're actually covered, and some of them will be suffocated in the snow.
And since you brought some of the animals in here, we've had seen some of them being born.
Yeah.
How important is it that they're not out?
Well, it's a great advantage for us having these in here, and we've shifted cattle to make it happen. When they're outside and being born in temperatures like we've had this last couple of nights with frozen snow on the ground, when a ewe has a first lamb, if it's not onto its feet really quickly and suckling warm milk really quickly, in these temperatures they're going to get hypothermia pretty quickly. And she's maybe having her second lamb. Once she's had her second lamb, the first lamb's already too far gone.
Those are some of the lucky lambs in Dumfries and Galloway. A lot of farms nearby here. It's been a very different story. And livestock is just one of the problems facing remote farming communities. Getting feed to farms has been a huge problem, and getting daily produce away from the farms like milk has also been a huge problem.
Already farmers say this winter has been too long and too cold, and it's not over yet. Cameron Buttle reporting Scotland, Castle Douglas.
And still to come on the programme before 7 o'clock, how one of the most famous youth hostels closed for 2 years may have to shut for good.
In sport, we meet the new management team at Aberdeen. We have a visitor's pass from a certain top tennis player. Stay tuned for Murray's Guide to Miami. And the Stone Destiny 2013 style. Eve Muirhead skipped Scotland to World Championship glory. The 22-year-old wins with the very last stone of the competition. More from Eve and the Scotland team in the sport soon.
A man has been charged in connection with the murder of a teenage girl in Greenock more than a quarter of a century ago. 16-year-old Elaine Doyle died on her way home from a disco in 1986. 48-year-old John Doherty appeared at Greenock Sheriff Court this afternoon. He made no plea or declaration and was remanded in custody. One of two men accused of murdering missing businesswoman Linda Spence has said claims that he abducted, tortured and killed her are monstrous lies. Colin Coates admitted that he despised the 27-year-old after losing money in a financial deal. But he told the High Court in Glasgow that he never saw her enter the attic of a flat where it's claimed she was tortured until her death. Coates and co-accused Philip Wade deny murdering Miss Spence. The trial continues. Now, some other stories from across the country this Monday. Scotland's island leaders are seeking more powers to manage their own affairs after the 2014 independence referendum. Meeting in Lerwick at the Highlands and Islands Convention, they're exploring the option of amalgamating all public services under a single authority for each island group.
The Scottish Government is very sympathetic to ensuring that local authorities and public bodies in the island communities are able to exercise broader ranges of responsibilities. That's been at the heart of our agenda since 2007, and we intend to ensure that that agenda continues.
The Scottish Government says it wants to ban smoking on NHS hospital grounds by 2015, but the Chief Executive of NHS Grampian says any total ban on smoking must be backed by a change in the law to protect staff from verbal and even physical abuse from smokers.
Those that are going to be asked to implement it are going to be put in a very difficult position unless they have some kind of support behind them to avoid the risk of being abused verbally and even in extreme cases physically.
Emergency vehicles have paraded through Perth to mark the end of Tayside's own police and fire services. From next week, police and fire cover across Scotland will be provided by single national services. 2 rhino heads have been removed from display at Elgin Museum over fears they could be targeted by organised criminals. Gangs have been targeting museums across Europe. Their horns could be worth hundreds of thousands of pounds as Chinese medicines. Glasgow's West End Festival has launched a campaign to raise £50,000 to stage its Mardi Gras-style parade. The event was shelved last year after sponsorship income was unable to cover the rising costs of road closures, security and clearing up. And there are more stories from your area and all the latest news 24 hours a day on BBC Scotland's website. One of Scotland's most famous and most popular youth hostels may have to be closed for good because of the cost of carrying out major repairs. Carbisdale Castle in Sunderland has been shut for more than 2 years because of severe weather damage. But the owners, the Scottish Youth Hostels Association, say the market for hostel accommodation, though, remains buoyant, as Craig Anderson reports.
The years and the elements have not been kind to Carbisdale Castle. Serious frost damage meant a bill of up to £2 million for immediate repairs, but the costs of restoring and upgrading this once stately home to modern standards are unsustainable.
I'm afraid to say it won't open for the foreseeable future, and its actual future as a youth hostel is obviously still under question. It is a very great challenge to us and worry.
Similar maintenance issues have led the SYHA to sell off some of its older buildings in recent years. There was a time when many of the country's youth hostels looked like this. Vast crumbling piles, a bit like Harry Potter's Hogwarts, with hostelers crammed into dormitory bunks. Nowadays, though, the upkeep of buildings like this is prohibitive, and the customer is looking for a higher quality of experience.
When we first hosteled, yes, it was obviously dormitories and very, very basic. But now, you can have your own room or...
Which is what we've got.
Which is what we've got.
At the refurbished Oban Youth Hostel, every room has ensuite facilities, and that's the shape of hosteling to come.
We're selling more and more private rooms now than we've ever done, and we're trying to continue to speed up that modernisation process.
More and more independent hostels have sprung up throughout the country, and here too, while it's still a budget-priced bed for the night, the emphasis is on a higher standard of accommodation.
I am considering changing some of my dorm rooms into family rooms where I could use them as dormitory if need be, but we have more families and more people looking for private or en-suite accommodation.
Hostelers used to endure Spartan conditions. They now demand more privacy and comfort, so the days of grand hostels like Carbisdale may be over. Craig Anderson, reporting Scotland.
Well, let's get sports news now, and Rona has the latest.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Yes, Aberdeen have unveiled Derek McInnes as their new manager. The 41-year-old has signed a 2-year contract with the option of a rolling deal after that. His regular assistant, Tony Docherty, will join him. Heather Dewar reports.
There's a new man in the door at Pittodrie. Derek McInnes has signed up as manager until 2015.
For me, it's just really looking forward to getting started. And hopefully, as I say, we can see the progression from the club. We can help play a part in that. And, we just really want to make Aberdeen as strong a team as possible.
After a difficult spell at Bristol City, McInnes was sacked after just 15 months in charge. He'll now have time to assess his new squad before taking over from Craig Brown in 2 games' time after the SPL split.
Daddy was St Johnstone, had a raw deal with Bristol City. Give him a chance.
I think it's great. As a young manager, up and coming, not such a good smell at Bristol City, but St Johnstone, he did very well. Give him all the best.
The Aberdeen chairman, meanwhile, says that he's admired McInnes since his days at St Johnstone and sought advice from the chairman there about taking him on.
He did a fantastic job there, and I know Jeff Brown very well, and I've spoken at length with Jeff and given a lot of stuff in Derek's background, and I can honestly say all the sort of diligence work we did, 99% of the feedback we got was very, very positive.
McInnes says there's no easy fix at Aberdeen, but he's hoping that small steps of progression will see the club back to its former glory.
Now, there's nothing like leaving it to the very last possible moment before winning the World Championship. But that's exactly what happened in Latvia yesterday. Eve Muirhead had to make an inch-perfect shot to win one of the biggest titles in curling, proving that the 22-year-old under pressure has a very clear head indeed.
Scotland's newest world champions back on home soil. 24 hours ago in Riga, it was all square with Sweden. But another stone of destiny was delivered. This time skip Eve Muirhead to win with the final shot of the game.
I think I'd rather been playing it than watching it, to be fair. And the way we played the game, we scored on those even ends, and we knew that I was going to have a stone to win the championships. And the girls played a fantastic last end. And then it left me a pretty simplest shot, you think, but when you're under that pressure, anything can happen. But I think we did great, we stayed calm and came away with the win.
The 22-year-old now looks set to lead her rink to the Winter Olympic Games in Sochi. Team Muirhead homeward, while the rest of the curling world thinks again.
Tennis fans, get ready. Andy Murray's in third round action at the Miami Masters in the next hour. He won easily on Saturday against Bernard Tomic and now faces the world number 32 from Bulgaria, Grigor Dimitrov. Now, Miami is something of a home event for Murray. He lives in the Florida city for 4 months in a year. He's the expert, so here's a tour of Murray's Miami.
Very different to my home now, which is kind of in the countryside here. Obviously, you can look out into the ocean and you see all the different wildlife, and it's quiet. It's very relaxing. Yeah, I go along to the basketball as much as I can. Watch the Miami Heat play. The arena's literally 3-4 minute drive. From where I live, so we try and go and watch that as much as possible. It's a great atmosphere in there. It's a good way to relax. I got a signed shirt from one of the players, Dwayne Wade. I've never actually got to meet them, any of the players, but big fan, and they're doing really well right now. We have these places here. They're called like churrascarias. I think it's like a sort of Brazilian idea, and it's just like all you can eat steak. They bring out loads of different steaks. That's pretty cool. That's right near where I live. It depends what you're after, really. South Beach is better for shopping and nightlife, and obviously love spent. I recommend it.
There we are. I thought we could all do just to warm us up, Jackie.
I bet he misses the Scottish
Oh,
weather.
I bet he
No,
does.
I don't think he does. And Kirsty, I don't believe it's going to get any warmer.
No, do you know we're about 20 degrees colder than we were this time last year?
20?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's slightly depressing, and it looks as though we're on track, certainly in Glasgow at least, for the coldest March year. So it is still very cold and staying that way, and all on high pressure, which has pretty much stayed over us, and it's meant we've dragged in very cold air from Scandinavia, quite a brisk easterly wind, and with that sea areas exposed to seeing the snow, and places in the shelter west not quite seeing so much. Through the night tonight, the winds are strongest towards the south of Scotland. Down eastern areas though, especially those north sea facing coast, that's where we're seeing further snow flurries through the night, maybe up to 5 centimetres over the hills. Temperatures will be dropping down to around freezing, so certainly a risk of ice in places, and don't forget where we have the lying snow down towards the southwest, that melted and then refreezing, so a risk of ice here as well. Tomorrow it's another cold one, the wind easing off a touch, but we do keep a few snow flurries going down that east coast, and the west is where we'll see the best of. By the afternoon then, spell further west, but for most it does look like being a fairly dry one, and some sunshine around the northwest. Western Isles doing well for that again. Here we're seeing the highest temperatures 5 or 6. It's well below the average. The Northern Isles again escaping most of the wintry flurries. Lighter winds here, but down the east coast, that's where we're